Do I have to separate before I divorce? The answer is no. There's no requirement in the state of Michigan for anybody to separate from their spouse before they can file for divorce. In many instances, both parties, both spouses, live in the same home until the divorce is final. Of course, it can be a very awkward situation, but there's no requirement that either side leave unless there's domestic violence or some other situation going on that you should talk to an attorney about. A lot of people think that they need to cool off, that they want to get separation to get clarity. You got to be very careful with that. If there's no children involved, you can come and go as you please. And you can take a couple days off if you want. Some people want to take a long weekend to think about things. But you don't want to establish a pattern of you being out of the house if you want to continue to live there, because the other side can make the argument that you found another place to live. You're living in an apartment, you're living with friends, and there's no reason for you to come back into the home. My preference and my advice is always stay in that home until you absolutely have to, or at least until you have established a plan with your lawyer about how you're going to proceed with the divorce. The situation is entirely different if you have children. As long as there is no domestic violence, my recommendation is always stay in the marital residence. You don't want to take time away from your kids. It's usually best to try to maintain the stability and the status quo, not only for your children, but to establish your rights later on. You don't want the other side to claim that you're already staying away from the kids, you're already staying away from the house, and there's no reason for you to have 50-50 parenting time or that extra day, or for you to even have the majority of the time if you're not even in the house right now. The safest thing to do, as long as your safety is not an issue, is for you to stay in that home until you reach an agreement or until you talk it over with an attorney and you have a specific plan for when you're going to leave, where you're going to go, and you have a good idea of how the expenses are going to be handled for the residents, whether there's a mortgage, whether there's a lease. If there's a lease, the question is, how long is that lease going to continue? Whose name is on that lease? There's a lot of factors that need to be considered before anybody just up and leaves from the home. Again, you don't have to separate before you file for divorce. Another question that is very often asked is, can I get a legal separation? Well, there is no such thing as a legal separation in the state of Michigan. A lot of people think there are. As long as you are legally married, it doesn't matter whether you're on the other side of the planet or you live in an apartment next door or another state, another country. If you are legally married, you are legally married. It doesn't matter whether there's any separation of distance. You still have all your rights as a married person. So asking for a legal separation is really a distinction that doesn't exist in Michigan law.